You're listening to Tomcat Radio, conversations with creatives, pioneers, and those that get shit done. I'm your host, Tomcat, founder of the design and media studio, Tomcat Atelier. For most of my life, I found myself at the right place at the right time, conversating with individuals that have inspired me to be a better businesswoman, artist, and a better human in general. So if those are the conversations you're looking for, you've come to the right place. Hello. Welcome to the first Tomcat Radio episode. Oh my Lord. This is not the first intro I've recorded. This is probably the 25th, 30th intro that I've recorded. Don't know what my dog is doing here, but if you can't see me, because I am going to be having this on YouTube as well. If you can't see me right now, what you are not seeing is my trusty steed, my studio manager, aka my dog, Baku. And we're just going to be recording this quick little ditty here in West Hollywood at my apartment. And yeah, what a trip, honestly, to even be saying that. And I guess that kind of leads into a re-explanation of why I'm doing this podcast. And the reason, I'm so glad you asked. The reason I'm doing this podcast is because I am so grateful to the expansion, to the tips, the perspectives that some incredible individuals have shared with me. And it's because of that, that's why I'm here now in LA as an artist, running a design and media studio. And I just want to give back. I don't feel like I should be the only one to know these tips and tricks. And I'm never gatekeeping. Didn't do it yesterday, not going to do it today, not going to do it tomorrow. But I'm just going to be real. I'm just going to be real, just like Baku's going to be real. Without further ado, let's talk about who we have on the first episode of the podcast. Yeah. I was just lifting up my dog. If you're not watching me, that's why I made the little high-pitched voice right there. So let's get to it. Today's guest is somebody near and dear to my heart, and I wouldn't be the artist I am today without this individual. And he has been so expansive to me in being an artist, calling myself an artist. Because of this individual, my pieces, my art has been put on the streets, has been put on walls, and has been put into galleries. This episode is for anybody that is wanting to become an artist. They want to start today. They want to start in a few months. You already have been dedicated to the practice of being an artist for a few years, or maybe you just want to get to know this individual a little bit better on a personal level. And I'm grateful that I've had a few recorded conversations with this individual. This individual hails from the windy city of Chicago, from the advertising world. He migrated to what he likes to call cold LA, to the world of writers. Funny enough, he took his writing from his notepad to the streets, starting off at a small 8x1 size to now doing incredible, massive murals that tour cities like LA, New York, and over the pond to London. I am so honored to say that my first podcast guest is the incredible artist, Wrdsmth. Are you nervous?
No, I don't.
Is it the podcast episode that's not making you nervous, or is it me that's not making you nervous?
Both. Not making me nervous. Yeah. Yeah, I can't say I'm really somebody that would make people nervous, so. All right. Welcome to Tomcat Radio for the 27th time.
Don't say that. People are going to be watching this for the first time.
Welcome to Tomcat Radio.
Thank you for having me on Tomcat Radio.
Thank you. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from, where you live, and what you do.
I am the LA-based street artist known as Wrdsmth. I live here in Los Angeles, California, actually on the west side in Santa Monica, California. And what else did you ask?
What do you do?
I am a writer and a street artist, and I do word-based street artists. I do word-based street art all over the world.
And I think we talked about this last time. You consider yourself writer first before artist, or do you just see them as synonymous?
Synonymous. I always say I'm a writer first and foremost because I've just always loved writing and wanted to be a writer and loved writing in a lot of different mediums. I used to work in advertising. I'm a published author. I've written scripts and short films. And 10 years ago, or over 10 years ago, I started doing street art for fun as a hobby. And it was word-based. It had to be, because anything that I do, like I could have taken up photography as a hobby, but I know I would ultimately have resented it because it was taking me away, pulling me away from writing. So as a hobby for fun, I started doing street art, and it completely took off. And I've been doing it full time for about 8.5 years, and it's been a crazy ride. So yes, writer first and foremost, which is even funnier in the street art world, because writers in the graffiti world are known as, or they're called writers when they're graphing their name all over the planet. So yeah, so I like that. Yeah, I like that aspect of it. So even in this realm, saying that I'm a writer first and foremost, I'm not a graph artist, but writer is just a cool term in my book.
Yeah,
even
I like
in
that
this world.
point that you make about graffiti artists being writers too. I've never heard of anybody explaining it like that, or giving them also that.
Yeah, I think if you go back to like the 70s and 80s when it was starting, or just growing, that's how they referred to themselves, as writers, which I always thought was super cool. Like you see that in documentaries about the graph world back in the day, and people still mention it now, but it's more graffiti artist, and I think when it started they were graffiti writers.
Did little Wrdsmth always aspire to be a writer, or did that just begin over like high school to college? Obviously your career has morphed over the past few years.
As a kid, I wanted to be a spaceman, an astronaut.
That's probably what people say.
A spaceman. That sounds like a little kid. I want to be a spaceman.
No, thank you for channeling your inner child. That's what I just asked you. Thanks for listening.
So I wanted to be an astronaut, then I wanted to be a fireman, then I wanted to be a teacher.
Fuck, I almost said fireman.
Really?
And I was like, fireman. I almost
Fireman. And third was teacher, oddly enough, which I always thought was weird. But then shortly after that, my fourth career choice was writer, but it rose to the top. Like I was an avid reader when I was a kid. I was a comic book kid, and I was fascinated with how the characters were created and how stories were written. And like, I was a Star Wars kid too, but I started learning so much about that film and other films that I liked, that I then started diving into the story process and creating the characters. And I was just blown away and fascinated, went down that rabbit hole and never came back of, I want to create those worlds. I want to create those characters. I want to make people talk. Right. So that just turned into a desire to just write. And at first it was, I know, fascination with TV and movies, but out of school, I listened to my parents too much, and they were like, get a job, be like your brother and sister. And that led me to think advertising was cool. And it is cool, but when you live in that world, you realize that it sucks. And you get burned out. I got burned out pretty quickly. So I was living in Chicago, working in advertising. I was good at it. I kept getting promoted, and they were throwing tons of money at me for somebody, that young or that age. But I ultimately woke up one day and just realized that I wasn't happy. So I became that cliche. I quit my job and said, I want to move west to Los Angeles to do creative writing, to write scripts, to write short films, to write differently.
Did you feel like the move to LA was crucial to your career as an artist now? Because there's people, right, that say, no, you don't have to move out to the big city. Other people say you do need to move out to the big city, whether it's for opportunities or expansion. Like, what is your belief on? Personally,
it's a great question. Like in hindsight, I can look at it differently, but back there and back then, and when you're that age, you're dreaming bigger. You're dreaming as big as you can. And I think there were two cities to really move to, and that was New York and Los Angeles. And I just gravitated toward Los Angeles more than New York, just because it was, sunny and bright, and the movie industry was out here. So a lot of that just kind of fueled, I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit my job and try this. I'd back up like a year or two when I was in advertising, and my friends knew that I wasn't ecstatically happy. Some were already out here, and they said, hey, if you want to, write creatively or just do things differently, you should move to Los Angeles. And I was opposed to it. I actually thought it was a very cold city. I thought it was sprawling. I thought the people were weird.
It was cold.
Cold. I wrote about it, in my first novel. But I warmed up to it, I guess you could say, or I warmed up to the idea of quitting my job and reinventing myself. And that was like, okay, I'm going to move out to Los Angeles for career reasons. I thought I would tolerate it. And when I got here, the city really surprised me a couple months in. I remember thinking, wow, this place is awesome. Like, I don't know why it gets a bad rap. And a lot of things were intertwined with that. Like I did inherit a good group of friends. And I think that's needed wherever you are. You need that, base of people that you'd go to war for, and they'd go to war for you, and I had that out here, so I really enjoyed that. The odd thing for me was when I got here, people were already complaining about Hollywood. Like, I remember going out to parties and dinners, and people are like,
when is this? What year is like this? I feel like
I was in my 20s.
I feel like people are still complaining about.
Absolutely.
People are not bitching about Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. It's never going to go away. Like people were kind of like, oh, if I hear one more person talking about their script, I'm gonna die. And I'm kind of like, I was the opposite. I was like, I love that energy. I love that people, we're talking about their passions and talking about their projects.
So today, I know I mentioned this, but today we're going to talk about tools. We're going to talk about specific things, tangibles, when it comes to street art. So to start off the conversation, what is a tool, piece of equipment that you would never leave home without when you're going to go do street art, when you're going to go do a Renegade?
That's a fantastic question, and it's almost a trick question because, there are elements, of 1, 2, 3 that you need, or I need, to get a piece up in the streets. But for me, I'm gonna look at big picture of that question. For me, it's my stencils or a stencil, and let's talk specifically stencil of my typewriter. So I always say this. I probably have said it in your podcast every single time. First and foremost, I'm a writer. I've always been a writer. I've written in different mediums, and I started doing street art 10 years ago for fun. I didn't think I could do art. I didn't think I could do street art. I believed in my writing, but then I got this idea for Wrdsmth, and it was a game changer for me. That image of a typewriter with a page coming out of it, and the page could feature my words, just made me forget completely about the fact that I thought I couldn't do street art. But what allowed me to do that, and the answer to your question, is stencils. And stencils existed long before I started doing street art. But I
Who
am a
expanded you? Not to interrupt you. Who expanded you for stencils? Like, it's so funny because to me, like, I can't even think of your work. I mean, I can think of your work without stencils, but like, who put you onto that tool?
I put myself. I mean, I knew enough about street art that I knew there was, stencils and wheat paste and, spray paint and all the different methods of getting art up in the streets. But stencils for me was the way to do it. Stencils were, created that you could do art quickly in the streets. It was that evolution. Black Larat and Banksy and somewhere in between, it was just created and perfected of an ability to get an image up quickly using the stencil and spray paint. So I knew that I would do that, and I designed the image of my typewriter, but it allowed me to even not even do it quickly, just to paint in the streets. And then I started off, wheat pasting the page above it. I was doing small pieces, and I still wheat paste sometimes. Again, those two methods allow you to do art, get up art very quickly in the streets, or just anywhere. And I don't know what I was getting at. And now I do all paint pieces, but even the page, is, I paint it white, but then I use a stencil for the letters. And then it becomes an all paint piece, and I'm able to do, pieces of, gigantic sides of buildings and murals. But for me, that stencil is just the reason I'm here today, the reason we're talking. And I don't know if I just answered your question. Like, I knew about stencils, and I taught myself how to make them, but that was also Googling. There's YouTube tutorials and people doing it. I watched a lot of Shepard Fairey, you know what I mean, and the way he not only wheat pasted, but then talked about and utilized the creation of stencils and utilization of stencils. So I kind of self-taught, and then as I got in the community here in Los Angeles, there were artists that were constantly like, you got to get bigger, you got to go higher. And I had one artist, he's a good friend of mine, his name's Teacher, oddly enough. He said, come to my studio and we'll do a large stencil. And I was already doing that technique, but had not done it that large. But that made me see how that's possible. And now you've been to my studio, all that stuff that was in his studio at the time I implemented, you know what I mean? Just those large tables on sawhorses. I always want to say seahorses, sawhorses. And it just allowed you to do, stencils of all sizes. And then I just kept going. The typewriter we, made, was one size, but then I learned, you can do any size by splitting it up, and it's multiple stencils that you're putting together on the wall to paint a larger typewriter. But long-winded answer, it's the stencil for me. Of course you need, everything
Totally.
from spray paint, and you need your wheat paste, and you need your brushes, and you need your tape, and things like that. But for me, it's the stencil. Again, I can't say it more than I would be here today if it wasn't for that. I'm a creative person, but I can't believe that, somehow the art, the painting met the words, because for me it was all about the words, and I believe in my writing, and that's what's resonating with people. But I learned how to make it look appealing. And now that typewriter, people have said, and this is the greatest compliment in the world, is iconic. Like, they see the typewriter and they just want to get closer to see what the words are. And that to me is huge. And in a roundabout sort of way, I mentioned Shepard Fairey, but that power of repetition, I didn't even know I was doing it. But by painting the typewriter the same every time, different sizes, but look of what I designed the same, and the exactness just did that power of repetition. And for me, all the words change all the time, and that's what makes me prolific.
Ooh, you are prolific. Go ahead, and humble.
Yeah,
You are.
both. I mean, there's a lot of typewriters out there, but the words do change a lot of the time, and I'm always coming up with new stuff.
Do you think that when you had said when you had said the part about the replication process of it, when I had a conversation with a gallery owner in Miami, one of his top three recommendations, if you wanted to grow as an artist, was duplication. And not like duplication in leaving out quality, but having your designs, having your art be recognizable to the public. So, do you feel like that was also one of the reasons that you have, besides the words? Obviously, like the words connect with people with different, for different emotions, for different situations. And I truly believe that that's one of the reasons why you have such a loyal following. But do you feel like that might have been a reason in the beginning, that duplication and repetition of seeing your typewriters in the city? Do you think that that helped with your career as an artist?
Absolutely, and it was a happy accident. I mean, I worked in advertising and again have written in a lot of different mediums. But when I started this, it's not like I knew what I was doing. In hindsight, I look at it and I'm like, oh, there was that power of repetition. And I did, design a typewriter that hasn't changed much at all over 10 years. If anything, it got a little simpler 2 years in, and I took stuff away and it was a less is more kind of thing. But yes, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I did two things, I guess, and both seem obvious. It was coming up with that image of typewriter and always being the same and always painted. Like that was another thing. Like people don't realize that every typewriter you've ever seen in if you've seen a Wrdsmth piece, the typewriter is painted. Sometimes I wheat paste the page, and now, like I said, I paint the page above it, but it's always painted. So even if that page weathers away, that image of the typewriter was still there. And sometimes I would come back to pieces and places and put new pages on. But the fact that was there, it was starting that power of repetition. So people did notice it. It was just like, I mean, to this day, people say, "Oh, you're the typewriter guy." You know what I mean? And they just know, like I don't think anybody could put a typewriter in the streets, and they don't think that it's. I don't own, the idea of a typewriter, but I was somehow the first person that did that typewriter with a page above it. And that's why I got so excited about the idea, because it was just so simple and made sense, but nobody had done it before. But then the second thing that I did is sign all my pieces, and that wasn't early on, I don't know, it wasn't an ego thing or whatever. I mean, all artists sign their pieces, but what I was doing was putting the signature in the middle of the piece, because as a writer does, a novelist or anybody, the words were mine, so I was signing the words. You know what I mean? So every piece had, Wrdsmth, with no vowels, front and center. So I think those two things, the repetition was, there's that guy again. But then the name was memorable, and if you go anywhere, on Instagram or Twitter or Wrdsmth.com, that's me. So it was in a sense a happy accident, even though a lot of it looks calculated. But I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning, and I just got lucky because I did all those little elements, and then got smart with it as a person that used to work in advertising and marketing. And it doesn't feel like that to me. Like really early on, I said, talking to somebody, I'm like, oh, I'm really protective of my brand. And I had a knee-jerk reaction because I called it a brand. And I'm like, oh my God, I never wanted to be that. And it isn't. It's very altruistic. It's very, a lot of everything that's happened, for the majority, has happened organically with my career. And I want it to stay that way, because if it gets too calculated or gets too business-like or too brand-like, you know what I mean, it just becomes something else. And I've avoided that. But what I was saying was, there is a knowledge or smartness kind of added to that layer of creativity. Again, having worked in advertising and being, if I can call myself, I think I'm a smart person, you know what I mean? So I kind of just did that, and again, it just was it was a snowball effect.
I'll give you the licensing that you are indeed a smart cookie. And I feel like I guess the best person to correct me would be you. formulaic isn't a word, but I don't know how to explain it, but there's two different types of great artists, and I feel like there's the types of artists that are, again, I'm going to misuse and create a word, but are formulaic. They have a formula, but which I feel like you fit into that category. The other category being like somehow shit just comes together in a messy hurricane tornado type of dynamic and it just works. And I don't know how it does. And I have no answers there. But I feel like but you're a very laid back formulaic. And I think that one of the great things about you, both as an artist, as a friend, and beyond, is that when things don't flow the way that they're intended to, you're very good at just redirecting, and not redirecting with anxiety or with an attachment to the end goal. I feel like that's another thing that I've learned from you is just, it's all good, redirect, no crying over spilled milk.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot there and a lot of compliments. So, and thank you. But yeah, I think you have to, I don't know, be patient with it. But I'm also patient because, and I'm not just saying this, I'm doing what I love. I mean, I'm writing and I'm writing about things that resonate with stuff going on in my life, and that's not just today. It can be I'm writing about stuff that happened 20 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 6 months ago, or yesterday. But that's one thing that I don't think a lot of people know is that every wordsmith piece you've ever seen out there resonates with something going on in my life. So I'm kind of working through all that as a writer. The amazing thing is that it's resonating with people like crazy, and you know that's because that notion that we're all thinking and feeling the same thing, and I'm just saying it and I'm painting it on walls, and people, I get messages all the time from people that are like, oh my God, you're reading my mind, or thank you for that, I needed that, and it came into my life at the right time, and that's thrilling on any level. Just on the ground level, as a writer, you know what I mean. You know, I'm getting read on a daily basis all over the world, and that's awesome. But the fact that the words are resonating with so many people, and it means stuff to people is just beyond thrilling. And then the other side of it, I'll talk about it a second. Like I've been very lucky. Like because of that, I think people sense the altruism and sense the, you know what I mean, trueness in the words. You know, I get these outpouring of messages, but I'm a street artist, so I still get hate, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the hate is very strong, and it doesn't mean anything to me. I heard a fantastic quote recently, and I think I had been living it, but somebody put it into the perfect words, and it's never listen to criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice for or ask advice from. So let me say that again. Never listen to criticism from somebody you wouldn't ask advice from or take advice from. And that's so huge. You know what I mean? It's just like
Huge.
like this outpouring of support and appreciation is deafening, you know what I mean? In the sense that then there's this little bit of hate, or I don't know where it comes from. It's just that world of street art, and it's I just tune it out, you know what I mean? Or just it doesn't even affect me because of everything that I said. And it also comes from, you know, somebody that I'm like, I wouldn't take advice from you. You know what I mean? So why am I gonna listen to the criticism? And I think that's an important
Totally.
lesson for any artist. It's just kind of like it's you got to do what you believe in and stay tried and true. And I always say this: like when I started, I never expected to be successful or make it. I never expected to make a dime. And if all this didn't happen and it was a perfect storm of things, I'd still be doing it. I'd still be doing street art. I know I would, because I enjoy it so much and I get a thrill out of it. Maybe I wouldn't, you know, be doing it as much or as large or in so many cities. But that's because, you know, of everything that I said. I get this opportunity And that's awesome. That's just icing on a pretty delicious cake.
Pretty good cake indeed. Um, you had made a comment a few minutes ago about like not rushing and just enjoying the projects, the place that you're at in the present time. When you were first starting off as an artist, were did you ever feel like, oh, I want to get to this level, or like, oh, I want to get to like this project? Do you ever feel like you're like that now? And did you feel like in the beginning of your artist career, were you ever like, I want to get there, I want to get there, or have you always just kind of been one step at a time, one piece at a time?
Yeah, I never really got impatient or even set those kind of. I mean, I guess I had goals, but I never set that kind of like impatience to this, and I mean, there was definitely things I wanted to accomplish. You know what I mean, like sizes and murals and sides of buildings and stuff like that, but I just it was a steady growth in the sense that I never felt the impatience and early on like I guess there was a not it wasn't impatience, but I guess there was a shock of being good at it. I always make this joke that again I went from not thinking I could do street art to thinking I would do stickers, or something very small, and then getting this idea and getting the gumption to go out there. And that first night that I was out there, I always make the joke like I got bit by a radioactive can of spray paint because I just didn't know I had this in me. So yeah, there was ambition, but not impatience of wanting to perfect that image of the typewriter, wanting to learn spray paint and how to be a better artist, and then continue to write words. That I was like that's where the prolific comes from. Like I would get excited about something, a new idea, and want to get it out there in the streets. So I'd go looking for the perfect spot, or just kind of take that momentum, not impatience. I don't know. So I don't know that I can answer that question because I never felt the frustration of this isn't happening yet.
I'm very grateful to, I don't remember if we had talked about this last time, but I'm very grateful to have the pendulum swing of when it comes to fucking haters, you and your perspective, and then Corey, the LA Hope dealer, her perspective.
Yeah.
And I love that we're both laughing because I feel so grateful, one, just to know the both of you, to be friends with you, the both of you, to have both of you I see as mentors. But it's just so great to be able to have the pendulum swing of when I'm really fucking pissed, Corey's like, let's go burn their place down. Not really, she wouldn't actually do that, but then to also come back to your side of things and be like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter.
What's the wear your emotions on your sleeve? Like, is that the phrase? I mean, she wears her emotions on the sleeve or stuff like that. I just fucking wash it off, or I cut the sleeves off. I'm like, fuck it. I don't need that. I'm not wearing that. But yeah, she carries it.
Oh, I like that.
We love her.
I like that. I'm not wearing that. Yeah, you're rocking the cut off. So let's go back to we're gonna go back to some basics again of going into your toolkit. I don't know if you want to say what you would never use, but what is I know it, but this is really for the people. What is your preferred spray paint?
I think I'm wearing the t-shirt, oddly enough.
Wait, I swear to God, I did not just mean to do. I did not even somehow fucking comprehend that part. That's so funny.
So I have a great story. I actually haven't told this in a long time, but so when I started out, I did not know what I was doing, in a sense, like everything that I said just about the process, but I got so excited about the idea, I just wanted to get out there in the streets. So like for the first 2 weeks or so, I was buying 99-cent cans of spray paint. I think Home Depot sold them at the time, and just like spraying to get the words up there, and just like and scared. You know what I mean? Like working
Yeah.
very quickly and just, working in the middle of the night. But I cringe at those pieces because they just whatever. It's like every artist will learn and evolve, but I cringe at some of those pieces when pics pop up of them. You know what I mean? Because they just look to me so bad. But what I'm getting at is really early on, I went from like 99-cent cans of spray paint to getting so excited about this idea and wanting to become a better artist that I immediately launched took the leap to Montana Gold. And I love that spray paint. Like I've used others, some people are 94 proponents or Montana Black or stuff like that. But Montana Gold for me was just like the best paint, and I just love it. And I use it 95% of the time, and I just think it's great. So, but it also, it also was the start of the, let's make the art look as good as the words, in a sense. So that was important for me to figure out what the best brands were, and I deem that the best brand. I love that paint.
How long would you say? Because I kind of feel like I'm going through this right now within my own work of like recently I'm just like, I want to resin 80% of my work. Like I don't know I think it was just an accumulation of being around people, one of them being yourself and going to events. But I feel like recently I'm like, oh, I don't want to show that because I want to take it to a whole new level. How long would you say when do you think that started happening, like in your career, where you were like, okay, I want to get the Montana Gold, I want to get like start investing in like better like canvases or whatnot? How long would you say that you had been like in the streets painting before
Yeah,
you're like, okay, let's start investing?
yeah. Another great question. So as far as my journey, like I started buying better paint and learning how to make better stencils, but the street forgives a lot, you know what I mean? Whereas I never like paused and said, "Oh, I'm gonna, learn how to do this better." As far as in the streets, learn how to do this better before I continue, going on. So I like my evolution was painted on the streets. Like you could see it, like whatever, like the person learning to stand upright kind of thing. It's just like you saw like me evolve in the streets. But what I'm getting is it
Wait, I would
was,
love to see a graphic that looks like that of you with like spray paint.
or just the
That'd
typewriter,
be
like
so good.
evolution. I should actually do that at some point. Like I forever have talked about working on this coffee table book, but it would be amazing just to kind of see the typewriters stacked up along, and the less is more that I talked about. I mean, it was ugly in the beginning, and then it was what it is. But I took away elements to get at where I have been for like the last 8 years. But what I'm getting at is, it was a huge part of my whatever, like realization. It's when people started asking me for commissions, that I really realized I had something. Like the words were resonating with people, so the fact that they wanted them in their lives and in their homes really made me want to be a better artist. And that's the question you're asking. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm not painting on, dilapidated walls or just crappy concrete anymore, or wood or metal. It's like I wanted to figure out how to make art that people would have in their lives and in their homes. So that made me invest in the sense of, I continued to use Montana Gold. I was already using that, but it made me, want to learn how to use it better, or move into canvases. At first, when people were asking for commissions, I thought, oh, I'll use reclaimed materials. I'd use reclaimed wood, glass, metal, and make it look like street art. You know what I mean? Make it look like the piece was almost like liberated from the streets. But the problem was when people started asking for commissions, they think, and they continue to think, most of the time in Canvas. So I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, I got to figure out how to do what I do on Canvas. So it was
Yeah.
looking at products like you're saying, like the canvas itself, or the art, or what to treat it with when it was done. You know what I mean? And was I still wheat pasting the page? But if I did, how did it last forever, or how was it protected? And some of that was the coatings, sometimes resin, sometimes like I always butcher the name, but there's like polyurethane coats that you can put on clear that just make it last forever. And what else was I going to say? Just kind of like figuring it out. And I continue to do some reclaimed pieces. I love working with reclaimed materials, but like 80%, or I'm making up a number, is on canvas, and that was a learning curve for me, or getting it to a size where I could make it just all paint, you know what I mean, and not we paste the page, and just figuring that out. So yeah, there was a learning curve, and putting my head down in the studio. And there continues to be. Like, I continue to want to evolve and learn new techniques, and just have fun in the studio, as much fun as I have in the streets. And that'll never be the case. Like, I love doing work in the streets, and will always do work in the streets. So, and it's never, not that it's never as fun. I'll say that. Like being outside is better than being in the studio. But you have to do the work.
Totally.
And that's also because like this is obvious, but it's not obvious to a lot of people. Like more than half the work, if I do a piece in the streets, more than half the work is done before I get in the car, or before I head to the wall. It's creating those stencils, and being ready to do the piece at whatever rate. You know what I mean? Like I do take my time now, and I act like I'm supposed to be there, and I'm lucky in that sense that people like my work, or they think I'm beautifying and not destroying. So I do work during the day, even when I'm doing Renegade. But people also think, oh, he's not looking over his shoulder, and he's not doing it at 4 o'clock in the morning, so he's supposed to be there, and I can hide in plain daylight, which is great. But what I was getting at is, the work in the studio is fun, but I'm talking about the work in the studio as a gallery artist, or doing commissions, and that'll never be as fun as being out in the streets, is all I'm saying. For me, personally.
Totally. No, I 100% agree. There's just this adrenaline rush that comes with being out there, with having the spray paints, just nothing that you can get in the gallery and in the studio.
I've been doing this over 10 years, and maybe this is my secret, or it's everybody, but I still get that adrenaline rush. And the first night you go out is like that free hit of heroin that you try to relive that high. But I'm saying it's not that difficult. Like I still get that thrill, like doing a Renegade piece, and I love that to some degree. You know what I mean? Like again, I do hide in plain sight, and do my stuff during the day, but that's, I still get that thrill, and man, I still get that getaway thrill. Like I have a tradition, like so most of the time, whether it's a stencil or a wheat paste, like I have a rubber band around the whatever, the rolled up stencil, or the rolled up wheat paste, and I put that on I take it off and put it on my wrist, and then do the piece, and then even if the stencil's wet, I'm taking it to the car and just throwing it in. But I have a thing where once I get in the car and I start it, I take that rubber band off and put it on my gear shift. And I bet you if I took the camera to the car, I'd probably have like 20 rubber bands. Every now and then I then take them off, but it's just this thing of I got away with it, and that's been true since the get-go, and I just love that. But it's part of that thrill of getting away with it. That's just so fun and so awesome. And then
that's a part of your street art ritual.
Yeah, and another thing that I still do. I'm like a 9-year-old kid on Christmas, but sometimes I'll drive by a piece, or or pull up to a place that I did a piece, and I'll look at it, or I'll be pulling away after getting away with it, and I'll be like, I did that. Like, I fucking did that. And I still get, was like a game changer, or punk music, or surfing. And for me, that was this. It's just like that getting bit by a radioactive can of spray paint. It's just holy wow. Like I feel like all my worlds merged, and I figured out like what my calling was, and blah blah blah. But I love that. And if it would have happened earlier, it would have been insane.
Yeah. Maybe thankfully not. Maybe wiser, older Brody Wrdsmth can hide himself a little
That
bit
is
better.
true. I think about like I don't have regrets, or very few regrets. Like I think that's my pet peeve, or just like living like with regrets in your life is just to me hard or whatever. It's just something I can't imagine. But what I'm getting at is, when I did start this and I knew I was like thrilled and having fun, and it took off, I did have a thing like, oh, why wasn't I doing this, years earlier? But then I did what you just said. I'm like, it wouldn't have been the same. Like maybe
Totally.
didn't have the experience to write about the things that I did, like I put on walls, and maybe it would have been different, or maybe I would have screwed it up, or whatever. So I do think everything happens for a reason, and it happens when it should, but I still fantasize about it a little bit, but I know I'll take it for when it happened and how it happened, any day of the week.
Yeah. How do you not wonder, at least? But I would put money on it that past Wrdsmth would be pretty stoked with where the present Wrdsmth is. So, well, I think that we can end it there. Before we go, where can people go to find more of you? Where can we keep up with you? What the hell are you up to next?
Like I said earlier, like any time you put Wrdsmth with no vowels, WRDSMTH, into whatever device you're using, whether you're on Instagram or Twitter or Threads, or just even the internet, wordsmith.com, you're going to find me. And that's pretty amazing to be able to say that. But I somehow owned that, just Wrdsmith, no vowels. And you'll find me, and I don't know. I'm just doing more art, and I got some travel coming up. I'm going to London to paint in Bristol for the first time at the Upfest festival. And I'm thrilled for that. And then I'm gonna obviously spend some time in London. I used to live there, but I'm gonna do a bunch of art, and then just more stuff here in Los Angeles and here in the States. So I'm excited for the next couple months when all the travel is going to start happening.
That's great. Perfect. Cool. Well, the people know where to find you. They know where to find you on the streets. Look out for him in crowds. He'll just be hiding amongst the common people. Us
And
common
look out for
people,
this artist too. Look out for this artist too. She's on the rise.
I thought you were going to say she's on the run. Depends on the day. Depends on the day. I could be. Oh, you're the fucking best. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening.
It's always good talking, and it's always good to be here on Tomcat Radio.
What is the sound bit that we were doing? The Human Torch is not.
Oh yeah, the Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Check, check, check. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tomcat Radio. Special thanks to Haas Music for our intro and outro. Hit him up for all of your music needs. If you like the podcast episode, make sure to share it with your homie or your favorite fellow creative. If you want to keep up to date with the latest episodes of Tomcat Radio, make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, Cool Cat.